All right, let's just start with Boozhoo Nana Boozhoo presents Little Cutie, a Teddy Bear's Vision Quest by Michael Lyons. It's another book review, so we're just going to read it. This is going to be a long one. Little Cutie, a Teddy Bear's Vision Quest. All right. Once upon a reservation in northern Minnesota, there lived a ragged red and white teddy bear. Little Cutie stayed in a house nestled deep within a jack pine forest with a family and a young girl named Aubrey. Things had been terrific for years. Aubrey and Little Cutie were inseparable best friends. They spent many long afternoons together, playing dress-up and stuffed animal parade. But lately, Little Cutie had noticed how Aubrey seemed preoccupied with playing with their friends, drawing cartoons on the kitchen table, and dancing in front of the mirror to music played really loud. To make matters worse, the adults had been talking about the two of them. Next to the couch when the big male human said to his wife, "Isn't Aubrey getting a little old for stuffed animals?" It was painfully clear to the small tattered bear. He had worn out his welcome. With a heavy heart and a lump in his throat, Little Cutie sat at the back bedroom window and sighed. Suddenly, Ojibwe appeared before Little Cutie. "What's the matter, Little Cutie? You don't look yourself," he asked. "It's Aubrey. I think she's outgrown me." "Are you sure, Niji?" the little red squirrel said. "She doesn't seem like the type to me, but then, what do I know about humans?" Ojibwe furiously scratched behind his right ear for a split second and asked, What are you gonna do? I don't know what to do, little Cutie replied, but I don't see how I can really stay. What do you think I should do? I'll be honest with you, little Cutie. I never understood how you could live with them humans in the first place. I don't let them within 20 feet of me. They've always been good to me, little Cutie replied. I couldn't imagine living with anyone else. Ajitamu tilted his head to one side, raised an eyebrow, and asked, What about bears? I mean, you are one, aren't you? Are you telling me you've never lived with your own kind? I guess not. Then there you go, Niji. Ajitamu's eyes lit up with excitement at the idea. You'll go live with the bears at the old res dump. I don't know, Ajitamu. That's a pretty big decision, little Cutie said. What if I don't like living at a dump? That's a good point. Maybe you should go on what they call a vision quest. What's a vision quest? I'm not exactly sure, but I'll bet you Magazine knows all about it. They say he's the most traditional of all the eagles. Would you introduce me to him? Ajinomu twitched and exclaimed, Hoa! I don't think so, Niji. The only one he trusted less than humans was Migazi. I'd like to help you, little cutie, but I've got a strict policy of avoiding birds of prey. Ajinomu said, If you want to find him, you'll have to walk down to the lake on your own. Little Cutie lifted the screen off the window and carefully made his way down the side of a nearby birch tree. He took one long and possibly last look at the only home he had ever known. Wiping away a solitary tear from his black felt eye, Little Cutie turned to Ajitamu and said, Thanks, Niji. Hang in there, little cutie. You'll work it out, Ajitamu replied, and quickly darted away.
I'm never coming back here again. This is it now, this is the end. Tomorrow I'll say we can still be friends, but I'm never coming back here again. I was caught for 3 long years, lost in the thoughts of a young man's fears. I cannot swim in a sea of tears. I found you out and then I disappeared. Now I'm never coming back here again. I'm never coming back here again. This is it now, this is the end. I'm never coming back here again.
As little cutie approached the weathered gray-brown coop at the edge of the lawn, chicken voices erupted in protest. Get out! They screeched. It was Wagosh again. In a flurry of feathers and a flash of orange, the little fox shot out of the door and back under the wire fence where he had tunneled in earlier that morning. He paused next to little cutie to catch his breath. Hoa! Wagosh said. Looks like we won't be having eggs for breakfast after all. Bakakwe stood on the inside of the fenced-in area and glared at Wagosh. You stay away from my eggs, Wagosh, she snapped. Next time, I'll send you home with a black eye. Ooh, I'm so scared, Bakakwe, Wagosh replied with a sarcastic smile. Do you really think I'm too chicken to try again tomorrow? Bakakwe's shiny black eyes narrowed and stared hard at the furry orange fox. Let's get out of here, little cutie, Wagosh said from the corner of his mouth. I think I may have gone too far with that last one, eh?
And so it comes down to this. One sad parting farewell kiss. Goodbyes in this morning's mist. What's mine is yours, but what's yours is his. So I'm never coming back here again. I'm never coming back here again. This is it now, this is the end. I'm never coming back here again. Oh, oh,
oh. Soon, the two friends were in the forest and out of sight of the house. Wagosh paused and said, Gee, it's nice to see you out here. What's the occasion? Actually, I'm on my way down to the lake. I've got to ask Migazy something. Migazy? Wagosh asked incredulously. Why do you want to talk to that guy? Little Cutie felt slightly self-conscious saying it out loud, but then answered, I'm going on a vision quest, and I need his advice. Ah, that old blowhard doesn't know anything, Wagosh replied. Everybody thinks Migazy is so wise and spiritual and patriotic. He don't impress me. What do you mean? Little Cutie was perplexed. He had never heard anyone say such things about the eagle. I'm telling you, he's just a figurehead, Wagosh said. The real brain of that operation is Mamengwa. Mamengwa? The butterfly? Little Cutie asked. But I thought they were just good friends. Well, I'm sure they are. But Mamengwa is smart enough to realize that nobody wants to hear all that spiritual mumbo-jumbo from some old butterfly, Wagosh replied. Why do you want to go on the vision quest anyway? It's sort of complicated, he replied. I have to make some big decisions about my life. Little Cutie looked very seriously into Wagosh's eyes and said, I think it may be time to leave the house. Good, Wagosh exclaimed. No offense, but I'd sooner live with the chickens. It's not like that, Wagosh. I like living there. It's just that Aubrey's outgrown me. Really? Wagosh said. She doesn't seem the type. Wagosh wrapped his arm around Little Cutie's shoulders and said sympathetically, Eh, don't take it too hard, Niji. They're only human, you know. By the time they had arrived at Wagosh's hole, it was nearly noon. You want to come in for some lunch? Wagosh asked. We were going to have eggs, but you saw how that turned out. Maybe the old lady can heat up some mac soup instead. Thanks anyway, but I don't really eat. You don't eat? No, Little Cutie said. He was starting to feel self-conscious again. I don't actually have teeth or any of that. Oh, that's right, Wagosh suddenly remembered. Well, that's cool. You want some coffee then? Little Cutie said. Ah, just kidding. Listen, Little Cutie. Whatever you need for this vision quest, you just ask, okay? Wagosh said. I could care less about the humans or Migazy, but you're my Niji. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you. I know, Little Cutie said with a big smile. You're my Niji too, Wagosh. Okay then, Wagosh said. See you later.
I
Meanwhile, high above Cabacona Lake, Migizi and Mamengwa were drifting on the winds and discussing high-minded ideas once again. Migizi stretched out his massive wings and comfortably soared in slow, ever-widening circles as the tiny monarch struggled against the mid-afternoon breeze. Boozhoo, Mamengwa. Mamengwa took a long, thoughtful look at Migizi and finally said, "You know, you don't have to settle for being just an eagle." Migizi said nothing. He wasn't insulted. His attention was on a shimmering walleye 100 feet below. Mamengwa was undeterred. He said, "Take a look at me. Once I was a humble caterpillar. Then, as soon as I knew I was at a healthy place, psychologically, physically, and spiritually, I cocooned myself away from all friends and family. Really spent some me time processing my childhood and getting in touch with my feelings. When I finally emerged, I was transformed." Migizi rolled his eyes. He had heard the story many times before. "I went from being the ugliest little worm in the forest to the most beautiful creature of all." He didn't think of it as bragging, but Mengwa truly believed everything he said. "Granted, I'm sure being the big, bad, bald eagle has its advantages," Mamengwa admitted. "You're a heck of a fisherman, and your face is all over the humans' money. But you could be so much more." Far below, little Cutie scanned the afternoon sky until he finally caught sight of Migizi gliding along effortlessly. "Okay, now what?" he thought. Just then, a familiar voice called out from somewhere inside the dense undergrowth of the forest. "There he is!" It was Jagog. He was thrilled to see little Cutie. He didn't like to admit it, but Jagog was a very lonely little skunk. "Man, it is so good to see you," Jagog said, and abruptly pulled little Cutie to him for a good tight hug. "It's nice to see you too, Jagog," little Cutie replied. "You know, little Cutie, you're the only friend I've got. All the other animals, they're afraid of me. I don't know why. I'm a peaceful kind of guy." "Are you sure it's fear?" little Cutie asked. "What else?" Jagog said. He was unaware of any issues concerning odor. Since little Cutie's nose was nothing more than a black felt triangle, he didn't notice either. "Hey, Jagog, can I ask you for a favor?" "Anything for you, my Niji," Jagog happily responded. "Can you help me get Migizi's attention? I need to talk to him about something." Jagog's tail shot up, and a grave look of concern fell over his face. He was prone to overreact under the first sign of trouble. "Why? What's the matter? He asked. I'm going on a vision quest, little Cutie replied. What's a vision quest? Oh, I don't know, but I guess you're supposed to go on one before you move out of the house. Little Cutie said, knowing how silly that sounded. You're moving out? What about Aubrey? Little Cutie felt a pang of sadness at the mention of her name. It was the first time he had ever experienced that. Well, that's sort of the problem, he said. Aubrey's outgrown me now, and I'm probably going to have to live with the bears in the old res dump. Wait, the real bears? Are you out of your mind? Jagog exclaimed. You'd be lucky if they didn't use you as a pillow. Really? Oh, come on, little Cutie. You've got no claws. You've got no teeth, he said. Bears are big, vicious fatzos who never share any of their delicious garbage with me. Do you really think I'd fit in so poorly with them? Little Cutie asked, even though he knew the answer. I'm telling you, little Cutie, if you think that humans are bad, well, I don't think they're bad. I just think, well, he didn't want to say it, but little Cutie was thinking, what kind of a person just grows tired of another? Maybe he wasn't much of a bear, but the forest animals all seemed to like him. Didn't Aubrey remember the good times anymore? Was she really too old for him now? Sure, it's probably a little embarrassing to be carrying around some old baby toy, but little Cutie couldn't continue. He leaned his tiny head on Jagog's shoulder and started to cry.
Late last night in my bedroom, a stranger came from beyond the moon, and he said he was here to learn and to teach that which was beyond our reach. His eyes were huge and his mouth was small. He moved like liquid at 4 feet tall. I was so scared I was screaming inside. Then he gave me a smoke. It eased my mind. We spoke about space and a lost earthling lover. I felt kinda strange when he asked, how's your she been since I've been away?
Aw, man. It's all right, little Cutie. You've still got me. Jagog dabbed little Cutie's eyes with his bright white tip of his tail and said, besides, let's be fair. Have you even talked to Aubrey about any of this? He hadn't. She seems like a nice kid for a human, Jagog said. You should really find out what she's thinking before you do anything rash. I concur, said Mamengwa, seemingly out of nowhere. What are we talking about? Oh, Mamengwa, said Jagog. Our little brother, little Cutie, is on what'd you call it? A vision quest. And he needs the eagle's advice. This time Mamengwa rolled his eyes. Listen, little Cutie, Mamengwa said. All you need from Migazi is a ride to Kichimanadu. A vision quest is nothing more than a conversation with the Great Spirit himself. Whatever is going on with you, Niji, whatever is eating at your heart, you just let Kichimanadu know all about it, and everything else will fall into place. Trust me. As if on cue, Migazi descended from the heavens and majestically landed on a nearby branch. Oh, wow. Verily I say unto you, my red and white, 100% cotton friend, he began. If it is passage to the Great Spirit you require, then pray thee wish for not one moment more, and allow me to serve as your most humble, if not utterly regal, winged carriage. Mamingo sighed and rolled his eyes again. Why must you talk like that? Oh, I don't know. I just think it sounds kind of cool. And how often does little Cutie get to do something like this anyway? Little Cutie smiled. Even the bald eagle cared about him. Very well then, Mamingo said. Carry on. Migazy turned to little Cutie and said, So what do you think, kid? You want to go for a ride? Yes, yes I do, Migazy, little Cutie replied and shook his head in disbelief. All his life he dreamed of flying like the eagles, and now he was about to know what it was really like. Migazy securely gripped the tiny stuffed bear by the back of the neck. With a movement of his wings that sent a rush of air through the leaves, the two of them rose up and over the tall jack pines in seconds.
Casting shadows from electric blue light, an alien sat on my bed last night, and I saw my reflection in his ebony eyes. Then I knew the truth and I knew the lies. He said, You're my flesh and my blood, you're my precious one. You're my flesh and my blood, but it's time to go. My earthling son, it's time to go. Earthling son, earthling sun, it's time to go. Earthling sun, it's time we go. It's time to go. It's time to go. It's time to
Soon little Cutie could see for miles around. Trees, lakes, and clearings of hayfields covered the landscape. In the distance, he could see the house he shared with Aubrey and the family. Can you hear that? Migazy asked. Is that a guitar? Yeah, we must be close. I'll set us down over there. As the trees engulfed Migazy and his passenger, and the forest floor seemed to rise to greet them, little Cutie noticed a tall, handsome man with a goatee and a long, curly ponytail. He was sitting on a stump and playing acoustic guitar for what seemed to be an alien. Migazy and little Cutie respectfully waited for him to finish his song before they said anything. When he was done, they joined the alien in applause. Miigwech, he replied. You're much too kind. Itchy-Manadoo turned to his friend and said, Stephen, have you met Migazy and little Cutie? Little Cutie was amazed. How did he know my name, he thought. I can read your mind too, said a voice inside little Cutie's head. No kidding, little Cutie thought. Surprisingly, he wasn't at all afraid. There was something so comforting and peaceful about this man that little Cutie was quite at ease. Then Stephen's high-pitched voice entered the small bear's mind. Thank you, I just taught him that one, he said without moving his lips. Now he's gonna teach me how to play a bar chord. What brings you way out here, little cutie? Gitchi Manadu asked, this time with regular speech. Does Aubrey know where you are? I guess you could say she's the reason I'm out here, sir. Little cutie took a deep breath, then exhaled. Well, it's like this. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. There's so much I don't understand, and everything is changing too fast. He paused. His face was twitching because he was trying not to cry. I'm lost and alone. I don't know who I am or what I am. And let's face it, what kind of a silly name is Little Cutie anyway? I mean, really? Gitchi Manadu. Open me up. Okay, take two. Take two. Gitchi Manadu set his guitar to one side. Take three. Gitchi Manadu set his guitar to one side, reached down and put Little Cutie on his lap. You know how you got that name, Little Cutie? Take four. Gitchi Manadu set his guitar to one side, reached down and put Little Cutie on his lap. Do you know how you got that name, Little Cutie? I don't know. I guess I don't remember. I've had it my whole life. I gave you that name because that's how I saw you, little and cute, Gitchi Manadu said. But don't mistake what you think are your shortcomings for what is your great power. What do you mean? Haven't you noticed how nobody else seems to get along? The squirrel doesn't like the eagle. The chickens can't stand the fox. The fox doesn't respect the chickens or the eagle. The skunk dislikes the bears and everybody disrespects the skunk, he said. Little Cutie reflected on his journey. And the one animal who is the most feared in the entire woods, Gitchi Manadu continued, the one animal who nobody, except you, trusts, has welcomed you into their home. You want to know why? Why? Because you are little and cute. Nobody is afraid of you, so you don't have to be afraid of anybody. Only you have been able to learn from everyone else. Since you are so little and cute, you have become the most courageous and wise of all the animals. But what about Aubrey? Let me tell you something about that. Lots of people keep their favorite stuffed animal for a lifetime. Sure, Aubrey's going to have other interests and maybe even her own adventures out in the world by herself, just like you. In the distance, they could hear Aubrey calling, Little Cutie! Little Cutie! Where are you? Sooner or later, though, we all come home. Let's go, guys, Gitchi Manadu said. Then with a single strum of a magical power chord, everyone, except Little Cutie, vanished and immediately reappeared on Steven's spaceship far out in space. Their adventure was just beginning. Oh, what? Back on Earth, however, and after a few minutes, Aubrey found Little Cutie in the clearing, sitting peacefully as he considered everything that had just happened to him. How in the world did you get way out here? I thought I lost you, she said. Without another word, the young girl scooped up the cute little bear into her arms and ran back home. As the years went by, Aubrey did have many adventures out in the world without Little Cutie. But just as the Great Spirit said, she always came home eventually. The end. Oh, wow. What a story. Nicely done, Michael. All right, there you have it. Little Cutie, a Teddy Bear's Vision Quest by Michael Lyons. And you've been watching Boozhoo Nana Boozhoo. Miigwech. I will see you again. Igawaba Min. Minawa.